You mentioned that, he or she who's able to, to spend the most to acquire a customer will win. And I agree wholeheartedly. And I think that when you think about that, to be able to spend the most to acquire a customer or client, you have to have clients that, have a strong lifetime value and are like high value clients, if you will. But with that comes perhaps different messaging. And I think it's very important when when you're marketing the brand or however you're positioning that. I know you've said great marketing divides. And yet sometimes people are quite afraid to niche down or focus on resonating with certain audiences because, if there's a personal injury lawyer listening to this, they may say, hey, look, I just want injured people.
Right. Divide is maybe I would say great. I have said great marketing divides. I know what the reference. We are so divided right now that I might word that a bit more sensitively. What I think that great marketing must do is great marketing must get people to not just notice, but to stare. Okay. So I think today it is easier than ever to get somebody to glance your way. You could do something, ridiculous. You could do something kind of out there and people will glance. It's like if you've ever been at a stoplight and somebody honks their horn, people are going to turn around and you're going to get a glance, right? But to get somebody to stare, to hold attention, that's a different animal. Great marketing doesn't merely get a glance. Great marketing gets a stare. And the way that you do that is to let people know that I'm talking just to you. Right. So if you're just sitting there with a megaphone, if you're just a random horn that was honked, then I'm going to glance and be like, they're not talking to me. That wasn't about me. I'm fine. Right. But if I know that you're talking just to me, where I am right now, just this group that I identify with, whatever it is. Okay. Now you got my attention because most people aren't doing that. Right. Most of the marketing, most of the advertising out there, it is not doing that. It is trying to talk to everyone. And as a result of that, no one's paying attention. They're just another person yelling at a sports game.
And where we've seen a lot of attorneys and law firms market, sometimes they're marketing it, talking about the size of their verdicts, their outcomes, their case results. And sometimes that's not the most successful approach. In fact, I know we talk a lot about storytelling and it can sound cute, right? It's like, okay, tell stories. But it seems like the best marketing really is storytelling.
Because stories engage. For the reason we said before, and they've always worked, right? That's how our brains work. When we go into story mode, we want to know how it works. So we are primed. This is how we learn about our world. You can throw data at somebody, they will forget it. And they've done this. I'll have to find the study, but they've done this where they've given participants in a study like a bunch of facts, a bunch of data, and then they told them a story that was completely contrary to that data. And afterwards, they did a follow up, and everybody recounted only the stuff from the story, but they remembered that there was data that backed it up. And so what the study showed is like, you can spout a bunch of data at people, but if there isn't a story to go along with it, then they're not going to retain the greater message. We don't just remember a random sequence of facts and numbers. So yeah, if you're out there talking about the verdict, that is so many of these things. If you're just doing a laundry list of data, a laundry list of features, a laundry list of benefits, and I see marketers do this all the time. I think about the parents in like Charlie Brown specials where it's like, wah, 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 wah. That's all they're hearing, right? It's the narrative that captures and holds the attention. So I think you got to be sometimes a little bit outrageous to get the glance. You got to, right? You got to. But if you don't tell them a story pretty quickly, they're going to look away.